Thank you. So as you can see, this is a dive with UI5. It's actually dive with UI5 and friends, I'd say, because it's not UI5 only, but it will touch some, I'd say, adjunct toolings to the UI5 universe, but you'll see that for yourself. This is the marketing slide. My boss made me put this one in. It says we're the SWAT team for SAP technology. So that's it, and now let's get started. The way this talk is going to go down is I'll explain some use cases. Then I'll show the technical realization to that on different levels, so front-end and sort of back-end. And then, while actually working out this presentation, it occurred to me that this would also be a prime opportunity to prove that UI5 on a tech level is capable of fulfilling the Fiori design guidelines. You know, the Fiori design guidelines? The Fiori design guidelines? As in, it needs to be role-based, it needs to be adaptive. I'm pretty sure all of you know them. And so far, they're always related to the visual or design aspect of things. But in this talk, I got the opportunity to show that UI5 as a tool, as a technology, is also capable of fulfilling these. And you'll see that for yourself. I don't need to read these, right? You're good. Okay. How many scuba divers in here? Hands up. Nice. How many future scuba divers? Yeah. No. So the idea to this talk actually happened because as I was introduced, I'm a dive instructor for many years already. And I had this idea of how can I, as an IT guy, improve the situation when it comes to certain processing in the dive industry. And I think most important is if you look at the idea, or I coined the name for this, your dive market, YDM is the shortcut. And for the concept, there's 4 participating parties on this digital marketplace, I'd like to call it. So on the top left, you see the regular diver that also does diving here in Europe, in Germany, does this as a regular hobby. Then you see the vacation divers, yeah, that go on vacation and do scuba diving there. Then you see the dive professionals who actually instruct scuba diving. And then you see the businesses like dive bases, like dive organizations, any kind of business that's related to diving. So this would be the idea of the participating entities on such a dive market. The most primary goal from the user perspective, so that's top left and bottom left, which is we as divers, is to digitize administrative processes. And we'll come to that in a second. The second idea is that's more for the right side. So for dive bases, for example, for professional divers, to provide, with the help of such a digital marketplace, utilization and logistics. As in, how many divers to expect? What kind of equipment do I need? And the third aspect is to deliver numbers. And this is probably the most important one, and you'll see it in an example pretty soon, what that means, because it allows also the right side, the business side, and also for us as customers to improve the service quality. So that's the top most prevalent idea of the marketplace, of your dive market, is improve service quality for all participating parties. And to not make this so abstract, if you, who was again one of the divers, hands up again? Okay, I'll pick you first, bad luck. When was your last dive?
2017.
So 2017, where? Australia. So besides getting there, what was the most time-consuming task once you got there?
Getting to the diving spot by boat.
Okay. And even prior to that, when you came to the dive base, what was the most time-consuming task?
Sorry, can you?
When you got there,
Yeah.
And what was the most time-consuming task when you started the dive process, so to speak, when you went to the dive base?
Getting my equipment together.
See? You heard that? Getting my equipment together, checking in, I call it, yeah? You walk up there, you say, hi, it's me. This is my certification. You get handed, what, 5 different pieces of paper, liability statement, medical statement, address, marine park regulations, whatnot. Takes you a long time to fill out. Then, okay, what kind of equipment do you need? I need a regulator, I need a BCD, I need fins, and so on and so forth. So I'd say, how long does the check-in process last or take approximately?
45 minutes.
45 minutes. So that's all cool if you're the only one walking into the dive base, yeah? If there's a little line ahead of you, if you're the 5th or 6th person and you're really eager to dive, then you're out of luck because you have to wait. That's how it is. In very few cases, you'll have actually a big staff lining up on the front desk waiting for you. And that's also, if you flip the side of things, if I take the perspective of a dive business, of a dive base, if I have 5, 10 people waiting in line to check in, I get nervous. Because nothing has to go wrong. There's no chance that I can catch up if I do an error right now. Yeah? The second, third person will even have to wait longer. And then from personal experience, I can tell you, this does not make any fun at all if there's a cruise boat docking and you have 4,000 people offboarding wanting to do a dive at this day. This is a real world example. Of course, you're prepared logistically ahead of time, but still people have to walk up and they have to sign things. You have to hand out equipment. Yeah? That's a really tedious task. So the first idea of your dive market was to actually look at the check-in process from a customer perspective. So let's skip this screen for now. And as you can see and guess, this is supposed to be a list of dives, yeah, sort of a dive log of kind of a thing that I did in the past. And here's an example check-in. So imagine you're still in Germany, you're waiting to fly to Australia, and even ahead of time, you have the opportunity to check into the dive base there. So let's say, because I'm going to Bonaire, so do the transfer abstraction thing and don't think of Australia, but of Bonaire. Then you pick your diving center, you press continue. It's going to tell you when are you going to be there. I will be there from tomorrow until next Saturday. Anything the dive base needs to know, have my medical statement on me, so they don't actually have to provide a form for me. And then, do I need rental gear? I need a dive computer. I don't need a mask and fins. I have them by myself or with me. I need a regulator. I need a BCD. I'm not such a big guy. M is good enough for me. I don't need a wetsuit, but I need an adapter for my regulator. This is going to be really important for you guys that are actual divers already. That transfers the screw-on part from DIN to INT. Yeah? Major catch-22 for all the future divers. Yeah? The little thing that goes into the air bottle, yeah, is different either with the DIN or the INT standard, and they're not compatible. So you need an adapter. If you go to a dive base, there's no adapter, no diving for you. Yeah. So all of that, it checks me in, and it says, all set, happy bubbles. Cool. That's something that otherwise you'd have to do, what, in 45 minutes? On site. Check in. Now, check this out just as a reference thing on the backend side. I'm looking at the XML export here. Oh, well, let's start first on the backend side like this. You'll recognize this immediately. Anybody recognize this? CDS services, out of the box, OData v4. So that's a real backend working right now, the development backend that I checked in it. And you can see the YDM business scope, surprisingly, is for the businesses. If I look at the checks in, I have to first log in. And then, okay, JSON is not everybody's thing to read, but I think for demonstration purposes it suits. You can see here there's 2 previous check-ins already from Mr. John. And here's the check-in I just did, right? And with the power of OData and V4, you can then, for example, expand the equipment that was requested for the check-in. And you see here, everything down here is as I specified it. We do not need to go through each and every one. I think you get the idea. So at the moment I check in, the dive base then knows who I am, what equipment I need. So transfer again, you come to Australia, or in this case in Bonaire, you walk in. The forms are prepared for you. You say, okay, everything fine, sign, sign, sign. You get the rental equipment handed in a bag. The guy says, the girl says, happy diving, you take the bag, you go. And personally, that's something I would like to do as well, because I go on vacation, I go diving, and I do not like to check in on site. If I could do this digitally and I have everything handed to me once I arrive on site, perfect. Yeah. And then also for the business side, if you look at it, they know that on this state, there's a diver coming in, he needs this equipment, transfer this to an amount of divers, so they know exactly how much equipment they need, how long they're going to have to provide air bottles for refilling and stuff. And most of all, imagine this. See, here on a previous check-in, by the way, I'm John in this demo, yeah, here. In a previous check-in, I left the remark, I sprained my left ankle, can't do drift dives. Now, a year later, I come back to the same dive base. Imagine yourself, you walk up to the counter, the guy looks at you, you're John? Yeah, how's the ankle doing? And you're like, whoa, service, somebody cares about me. Okay. Aside from that business aspect or administrative aspect, let's refocus back on UI5 on technology. What does that have to do with UI5 so far, strictly speaking? Nothing, because it's only the UI, right? You saw UI5 working. What's so special about this? But what you might have realized is this thing here runs on my laptop. This thing here is a real backend running on Cloud Foundry. Now, if you look at the architecture, you've seen CDS already that works on the backend. What you not know yet is there's an SQLite database working in the background. It's in a Node.js runtime. And you also see that the front end and the back end are separated. Now, if you go by the cloud application programming model, you'd have everything in one place. You'd have your DB folder with the database, you'd have your service folder, SRV, and you'd have your front end stuffed into APP in the folder. Then you do an MTA build kind of a thing, and you deploy it on Cloud Foundry. You have everything in one place. Good and fine. But for me as a developer, it takes away the flexibility that I can experiment on both the front end and back end independently, and especially on the front end, because this is where most of my development is going to happen. So what I did here is I took, is that big enough for you guys also in the back? So? Fine. See, very good. That's the diver sign for OK, if anybody wonders, yeah? So what I did is I used Cloud Foundry's SAP app router, as in here. I use it at runtime as a Node.js module. I parse the same access app JSON that is required for Cloud Foundry deployment. And then I simply start and run the whole thing locally on my laptop. And with the help of the destinations, everybody should be familiar with the term destinations, as in you configure them in Cloud Cockpit usually. You can inject them at runtime as well into the app router. I can hook up the backend to the runtime of my laptop. So I'm actually working with the real backend, but experimenting UI-wise on the front end. So that's my local UI. That's also the backend, working as you'd expect it. And now there's something really new that none of you know yet. You can fake roles on the CDS side with the help of the .cds-rc JSON. So you can provide a user with a password. You can mock the JWT token, as you can see in here. And what happens then is, if I call up the UI, locally, I get that pop-up. And now I pretend to be Jane, and I can see I got different dives being Jane than I have. Oh, wrong screen. Than I have as being John. So that allows me at development time to mock roles that are present on the backend. And if this isn't role-based, as in the Fiori design principle, I don't know. Yes, it is, of course, it's the answer. And also, I think it solves two pain points that the official UI5 tooling still has. You have a live reload opportunity in there. So if I were to change the dive list view into some other title, and I save this, and I'm not even fast enough going there, I get the right live reload, yeah? So no more F5 Control R or whatever you want to do, in combination with the local proxy that gives me access to the backend data. So that really, for me personally, because I said this is basically done for me myself, it improves development time drastically. Now, again, hands up, divers. You know, it's gonna, yeah, I know there were more before, yeah, because I'm gonna catch one of you. Come on, hands up. I need another volunteer. You in the back, can you hand the mic over there? Or I walk. Meanwhile, I ask the question, when was your last dive?
Hello.
In January.
In January. Everybody heard that, right? January?
January.
Yeah. What do you remember most vividly about the dive? About your last dive, what do you remember? Don't think, say.
I had a really bad dive where the sea was really
okay,
not
skip
that
to a
fun,
good
so.
dive. Your last good dive, what's your thing that you remember?
Being in the water and just enjoying the dive itself.
Okay, anybody else, a good dive that you remember, your last good dive? Come on.
Buoyancy in the water with the feeling of weightless.
Okay, feeling of weightless. Anybody else? Nothing you guys remember seeing?
Whole lot of fishes.
Whole lot of fishes?
Yeah, actually almost got swallowed by a whale shark.
Oh, see, almost got swallowed by a whale shark. That I take as an example because that's cool. So it's the same with me, and you'll see in a second it's the same with the dive market principle. If I think of a dive, and I think back at the dive, there's always this one picture popping up in my mind. There's not 5, not 6, there's primarily this one picture. And if I see that picture again, I'm immediately back into the dive. I can recall whatever happened. So the principle of your dive market, as in the UI customer facing, is going to be you have the ability to upload one picture per dive that you see here in the dive log. And what then happens is, at runtime, when you start the application or the app, you can actually go back to that picture and have a nice look around again. And because you have more than one dive, the application by chance picks a picture to display. That's my wife, by the way. And 3D-ifies it. So you can sort of re-browse that action. That was in Gozo, a really cool dive. The shark again. This is not such a good example. The shark again. Too many fish. There's one picture I'd like to show you that I find really cool. I stole it from a colleague. Okay, 1, 2, 3. It doesn't come up well anyway. I'll take this again. This was from a fish feeding session. Really nice. Okay, so this is UI5. So this is UI5 specific, and of course you want to know how this is done. It's done via using Three.js, and it's done because UI5 provides you with the AMD module syntax, where you can asynchronously load files, reduce memory usage, and then process it. So this is exactly, on a very high level, what happened. I use Three.js, and then in the build sphere function, I require the controls to operate the browser, and then the magic happens. Time-wise, how much time do I have left?
You have 20 more minutes.
20 more minutes. Okay, so we can, I think, briefly go through the code for this. You are interested, right? Sure. Yeah, okay. So the magic happens in here. If you look at the on-after rendering method, classic hook in the controller lifecycle, you see it loads a sphere pick. Then it gets those numbers. We'll get to that in a second. And then in the end, is that big enough? Yeah. In the end, it sets a property in the model to actually not to display the loading animation anymore. How does the load sphere pick look? It is a promise. That's right. It loads an image. And that image is basically using a classical syntax that most of you know. It uses the classic image tag, HTML image tag, binds an onload handler to it, which gets the picture from storage, then adds it to the DOM and hands back the picture. Then in trim image, as in the next process in the asynchronous chain, it uses a canvas, like so, to then shift the picture into the right dimensions, oCanvas width, oCan with height, and in the end, via canvas to data URL exports the base 64 string again to be reused in the next processing cycle, which is the build sphere function down here. And this is actually where Three.js comes into play. So you build up, I just fly over it, yeah. You build up a texture, a perspective camera, a scene. You build up a geometry. You put that previously trimmed image as a mesh material on top of the scene. And then after further ado, with request animation frame, you get the actual opportunity to react on mouse events and then shift the scene again. So that's 3JS specific, but nothing too fancy. It's really standard. But UI5 in itself, because of the AMD syntax, allows you to do the asynchronous processing in a way that this effect is actually possible. And now, you know, I mean, if you are going with UI5 anyway, and you've seen in the keynote probably how they reduced the rendering times. So I sort of did this too because I used it ahead of times before they showed you today. So of course you can also then transfer the UI5 application and have that same thing going on the mobile device. And this for me, like this is the point where I'm really addicted. I could sit like all day, reload pictures. This is the mural, see? I was talking about. I could sit there all day and like look at my previous dive pictures just like so, you know. Oh man. And if this isn't delightful, what is, huh? How do you do the Cordova packaging, by the way, of such an application? It's a little bit different with the UI5 versions 160 to what most of you are probably used to. You have to take care of two special things. First of all, you need to wait for the device ready event. I'll show the code for this in a minute. And then you also need to adapt the component start, which is why, and now I'm showing the code. Here inside the app folder, the packaged application lives. And if I start up the application, let me pull up the regular index in here, side by side. So this is the index application, index HTML for the mobile device, and it uses not the component container, but a regular bootstrap file, a regular JS file that you reference like this. And in that file, you do nothing but wait for the device ready event, and then actually require the SAP UI core component support that you would just by standard means in the regular bootstrap. So let me pull this also side by side. See, this is the regular initiation or bootstrapping of the application. You have the module SAP UI core component support, and I'm doing the same in the bootstrap for the device. And then what's a special step in between? I use the UI5 build preload command to actually achieve the component preload file that I then transfer to the device, so the speed is quicker on execution time. But that's also out of the box, nothing fancy. It's just the usage of the tools available of UI5 and ecosystem to achieve that effect. And then going to the mobile device, other than getting through iOS hiccups, you know, with mobile provisioning profiles, so on and so forth, from the coding perspective of the application, it's a one-on-one transfer. No special coding for the device. Okay, right on. Next thingy. The divers amongst you, are you logging your dives? Yes, no? Yes. Yes. So when you log your dives, are you doing the body signature thing? Nobody knows this? No? So, okay, buy the books. Yeah, if I teach and there's a new diver, they're also happy to log their first dives, and that's totally understandable because, I mean, it's diving for you. It's all new. And then you let your buddy sign your log dives. Yeah, you walk up with your logbook. You say, can you please sign here so I remember the dive with you? Yeah, that's like a major social thing in the dive community. There's people who draw in logbooks and whatnot. Yeah, so a special kind of a thing. Now, all cool if you're on site in Australia, in Egypt, in Bonaire, and you do your logging of the dives. Yeah, and I can walk up to my buddy right after the dive, say, please sign it. Not so cool if you're lazy like me, you fly back, then you think, oh man, how many dives did I do? What was the body? Oh man, this girl from Australia, how is she supposed to sign my dives? She's not here anymore. So that was also one motivation for building the next thing. I think I'll simply place it side by side. So remember, on the right side, I'm Jane. On the left side, I'm John. Now you can see on the March 11th, I did a dive in Bonaire. It was 25 meters deep. It lasted for 52 minutes. And I did the dive with Jane. And here in Jane's logbook, I can see the same dive, different localization. Oh, nice. But other than that, the same dive, 25 meters deep, 52 minutes long, and did the dive with John. Now, with the help of the Your Dive Market service place, with the help of the app, I can say, hey, Jay, give me your buddy signature. And Jane immediately gets informed, hey, John wants your buddy signature. It's for this dive. I compare it. Yeah, that's right. I had the dive with John. And then I can either say, nope, bad guy, or, okay, I'll sign it. And then I can do my signature thing. Jane. Oh, it's really awkward with the trackpad, but I'll do that. I can send it off, and John is going to receive the signature. And then he can say, hey, cool, even though Jane's in Australia, that thing worked. And I can either say, nah, it's not so nice what she's written, or I can accept it. And if you look in the background here, Jane, if I then press OK, all done, your buddy signature is in your log, the application state refreshes, I can see Jane sign my dives. Cool, huh? So that's a real use case for the internet, you know, not limited to locations. How does that work on a, oh yeah, by the way, Cordova packaging, adaptive. Huh? So this works with the help of WebSockets. And WebSocket support is built into UI5. Probably none of you know it, but there's a class, SAP UI Core WebSockets. Just use it. It's all there. What happens in the background is, if I issue a dive request, I'll send a WebSocket message to a pool of divers that are logged in when they use the application. Of course, some of you are now going to say, is it also going to work if I'm offline? No, it's not going to work if you're offline. That's the entire point, you know. And how does such a socket thing look? It's hidden in the base controller here. In a function called attach socket for signing. And what you can see here, I'm initiating the socket, and then I'm at the same time declaring event handlers if I receive messages, so that's socket on. And also, I can send off messages with the help of socket emit. Same thing, yeah? One is listening, one is sending. And so this is socket emit to the pool. The server broadcasts the messages to all connected clients. Jane listens in, picks out the message that's for her, and then sends back a confirmation, all right, that John actually receives. Yeah, so the purpose of WebSocket messaging is not you can send a one-on-one message between two parties. You have to broadcast, listen in. So like pops up in sort of a way. Yeah, so you subscribe to a channel, you listen, and you send messages to a channel. The signature part that you've seen, I'd like to pretend that I did it all by myself, but the truth is I did nothing for it because it's a control from UI5 lab. Everybody knows UI5 lab? Yes? No? Who shakes head? Shake head if you don't know it. Okay, too many. I'll just show you the code so you can actually see it lives in a fragment. And all I do is this. That's the signature pad from UI5 Lab IO. So from an Indian colleague, signature library. And I just included this into my application. It's super easy to use. And it provides you with a canvas that also works cross-platform for signing or for doing things with the canvas. I used it for signing. Now, 10 more minutes, you said, so might be 8 now. So we have time for a little experiment, I think. Anybody has a laptop booted up and ready? You do? Okay. Let me find out my IP address. Okay. This is my IP address. Can you read that in the back? You can. So it's 10.95.242.53. Can you pull up a browser, please? That does not have any JS blocking, ad blocking things running, please. Chrome. Good. And call up the IP address at port 2019 so you connect to my laptop. Hold on.
Port number?
2019.
So,
Yeah, you have to wait. That's how it. Oh, Helmut is faster. I'm sorry. So, Helmut, you can see the UI, and it asks you for logging in.
Yeah.
So please play Jane for me. Jane is the username, and the super secret password is 123. Now let me pull up the. Okay, you're good on the dive list? Okay. So let me pull up the application here. Because as you might know, WebSockets are not limited to browsers. You can also hook them up to Cordova applications. And what I'm doing right now, I select the dive. Have you seen that? The very first dive? Yeah? And I'll shake it to Helmut.
Yeah.
And Helmut can now see.
John wants your body signature.
Cool,
For
huh?
this style. Okay, I don't have free hand.
Yeah, sign it for me, please.
Yeah.
And the same message then went to Bob already.
The same message, what?
Went to Bob already as well.
Okay.
Same-
Exactly.
everybody, right?
Exactly, that was the point. So the same message went to Bob as well.
I'm not really good in
That's good enough for me, thank you, sir. So, oh, there's another signature coming in. See, more people signing it. So that's the point, yeah? It's kind of a social thing that you can play with the WebSocket thing to ask somebody for the signature, to receive the signature, to put it back into storage. And this is all with the help of UI5, I'd say, plus the surrounding tooling, such as CDS. Yeah. So this one's no good, I'm sorry. And then, yeah, for demonstration purposes, you can see that Jane signed the message here. Or it got the signature from Jane here, sorry. So, where did my presentation go? Here. So if this does not fulfill all Fiori design principles, I don't know. And of course, you want to know how the shake is done. We can go step by step through the code, but looking at the time, this should be enough. You can hook up to the device motion event. That's available in our browser, so I could actually shake my laptop as well. That would work too. But of course, the effect is way better when you do it with a mobile. And then all that's left is you have to do a little math calculation to find out the axis, what's the right movement kind of a thing when you do a shake, that it doesn't pick up when you just or when you put the phone down, but when you actually shake it. But other than that, that's it. And because I put the logic into the base controller, also a cool UI5 feature, all other controllers in the application have that receiving event available. So no matter on what page of the UI5 application you're on, you'll always receive the pop-up. So that's the UI5 sort of architecture feature. Use a base controller, then inherit from the base controller in all the view controllers, so you have a common pool of functionality. So how is this going to go down now? I said in the beginning it's use cases with reference implementations, but this is obviously alpha status. This is nothing that I can say download from the App Store right now and you'll be part of the whole thing. I'd like to have a major dive organization come on board and say, hey, cool, SSI, Patty, that's a nice play thingy. We all benefit from it. We'll support it. So if any of you, know what I'm saying. Or team up with a dive-based company. Imagine you have the same functionality in all Orca dive bases, or Eurodiver dive bases, or Learn-Allow dive bases worldwide. Or hook up with a dive computer manufacturer, because how cool would that be if you have your dives recorded on your dive computer, you exit the water, then you transfer the dives into your logbook, and then you can play your shake game on site if you want. But most important is this. That would be the dream. So if any of you have interest, have contacts, please tell me. I'd really like to pursue the idea. The slides are online already at that URL. And thanks for listening in. Thanks for participating, everybody. And have fun on the UI5con.